So currently there's war between the United States and France, and it's not coincident. These two countries are fighting over West Africa. When Emmanuel Macron went to China, he said France and Europe must decouple away from the United States. And this is not coincident. He knew what he was saying. Because United States is working against France. United States is trying to collapse France's economy. United States controls most of the Anglophone countries in Africa. But most of the Francophone countries are still aligned with France. And what you see, France installed puppet governments in the Francophone countries in order to exploit these countries. So recently, there's coup d'etat all over West Africa, especially in the Francophone countries. And all these coup d'etats are orchestrated by United States. Take a country like Mali, for instance. Assimi Goïta was trained by United States. And if you look at Ba Indao is aligned with France. And France deliberately installed Ba Indao in Mali in order to exploit Mali. So United States was smart enough and they wanted to turn ties around. So what they did was to bring in a military leader in order to exploit Mali. But things didn't go as planned. I'll explain that to you later. Take a country like Guinea-Conakry, for instance. Look at Mohamed Doumbouya. Mohamed Doumbouya was also trained by America, and Mohamed Doumbouya overthrew, his president. And this guy, Alpha Conde, Guinea president Alpha Conde, was a puppet to France, right? He even violated the country's constitution and ran for more terms. And Guinea is rich, but France was exploiting them, so France supported Alpha Conde. And nobody ever called this guy a dictator. I never saw anybody calling Alpha Conde a dictator, because Alpha Conde was, giving Guinea resources to, France. So they loved him. Look at similar, situation in, Burkina Faso. All these Burkina Faso leaders, most of them, or these military coup leaders, all of them, most of them were trained by America. But this is what America intended to do. America was trying to overthrow all the pro-France government and install puppet leaders in order to control, all these Francophone countries within West Africa. But these military leaders had their own plans. They had their own plans. Look at a country like Mali. After they overthrew, Ba Indao, swiftly, they knew very well that if they don't align themselves with a superpower who is strong militarily, America will come for them. So that is why Mali, the military leaders, quickly invited the Wagner group in to protect them, because they knew very well that if they don't align themselves with a superpower, America will come. That is why they aligned themselves with the Wagner group. Look at a country like Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso, after overthrowing their government, they decided to bring in the Wagner group. Recently, they brought in the Wagner group. This young guy who came in, he brought in the Wagner group. And why did he bring them in? He brought in the Wagner group because he knew very well that both France and America would turn his country to a battlefield. They knew very well. That's why he invited the Wagner group in to protect him and protect his country. So things didn't go as planned. How did we know? I hope you guys have heard about the Pentagon leaked documents, right? This is where we got to know it. So United States was behind all the coup d'etats in Africa. Recently, they tried to do the same thing even in Niger. They tried to overthrow, United States was trying to do the same thing in Niger. That is why Emmanuel Macron came to Africa. Emmanuel Macron visited about 18 countries or so, trying to convince all the Francophone countries within Africa here that France is still a reliable partner and we should work with them. Interesting. But I salute Doumbouya, I salute all the military coup leaders who aligned themselves with the Russians. Look at Burkina Faso today. Burkina Faso was kind of like taken by, terrorist groups. All these terrorist groups were all sponsored by France to destabilize the country in order to steal resources. That is how they work. Look at a country like, Congo. Congo is very rich. The richest country on earth in terms of resource. They have resource more than any country on earth here. Some of the resource, they've not yet discovered them. But since 1961, the West and America, they've deliberately destabilized Congo. in order to steal their resource. And this is the bad side. If all these francophone countries decouple away from France, France's economy will collapse. There will be high inflation in France. There will be high inflation in France because you see all these francophone countries still spend franc CFA. So what happened? So all these currencies have to go back to France, and there will be inflation in France. You know, when money is too much in the system, it causes inflation. So a time is coming, people in France will line up to buy bread if West Africa decouple away from France. Burkina Faso, Mali, Central African Republic, all these countries, they are trying to, you know, get their own currency. They are trying to decouple away from France CFA, which is good news for us. Look at what is happening. You see, after France took over in Africa, after, you know, the end of colonization, any country that France gave independence, they signed a pact called Colonial Pact. And with this Colonial Pact, France compelled or forced all the francophone countries to still spend the France CFA, and all these francophone countries cannot sell their resources to other countries, even if those countries want to buy these resources at a higher price. These countries or these francophone countries must still sell their resources to France. They can sell it to other countries if France is not interested. But if France is interested in any resources within these countries must sell these resources to France at all costs, even if there's a higher bidder. So I salute all these military coup leaders. Look at a country like Mali. Mali is now in charge of their own resource. They contracted the Wagner Group. They didn't bring the Russians in to replace the Americans or replace, you know, France. They brought them in as what? Contract soldiers. Simple. You come, you work for me, you go your way. I pay you. It's simple. And that is what the Wagner Group is doing. And the Wagner Group is not just fighting, but the Wagner Group is also training. It's also training all these francophone countries. They are training them how to become independent, how to hold weapons, how to fight on their own. And they are supplying them with weapons in addition. Both United States and France will collapse. Once the world decouple away from United States dollar, there will be hyperinflation in United States. And if all the francophone countries decouple away from France CFA, there will be hyperinflation in France. So both France and United States, they are both collapsing empires. Just imagine if these francophone countries had not invited the Russians in. Like by this time, they would destabilize the entire country. Or this country. They would destabilize all these countries. You know, one of the biggest mistakes that this guy did in Congo, Patrice Lumumba, after the independence of, you know, Congo, you know, this guy came to Ghana in 1958. Patrice Lumumba came to Ghana in 1958. He attended the All African Congress, you know, meeting that was organized by Kwame Nkrumah in the Soviet Union. So, you know, Kwame Nkrumah had protection from the Soviet Union. So it was very difficult to capture Kwame Nkrumah and kill him directly because he was protected by the Soviet Union. But Lumumba tried to be independent on his own, but the Western America was too powerful. So they used UN, you know, Belgium used UN, they used United States, and they used France and UK to capture him through Mobutu Sese Seko, and they killed him. So if Africa is trying to decouple away from the West, let us not make the mistakes we did back in the 60s. Let us first of all align ourselves with the military superpower before we decouple away. This is what we must do. Kwame Nkrumah survived 5 assassination attempts, not because he had magics, but because he was aligned with the Russians. Because we had the Red Army, over 1,000 personnel protecting him with equipment from the Soviet Union. So that is why it was very difficult to, you know, kill a man like Kwame Nkrumah. Just imagine the ideas, the philosophy of Kwame Nkrumah. Why did they kill a man like, Lumumba and they left Kwame Nkrumah? Because they tried to kill Kwame Nkrumah, but they failed. The Soviets protected him at all costs. So the only option they had was to wait till Kwame Nkrumah leave the country. Then they will come in for his government behind him. So Kwame Nkrumah was not in Ghana before his government was overthrown. He went to Vietnam. I will explain that later, how United States CIA President Johnson pressured Kwame Nkrumah to leave Ghana and come and negotiate a peace plan between United States and Vietnam. Then how they overthrew his government. I'll explain that later. But this is my point. These francophone countries are being smart. Look at Burkina Faso. Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara is a true revolutionary. But the mistake Thomas Sankara did is he was trying to liberate his country alone, which he failed. Because the West will eventually come for you. Note, if all these francophone countries become independent, France will collapse. So France will never allow all these francophone countries to become independent. So all these francophone countries must first of all align themselves with a superpower before they try to decouple away from France. And that is exactly what these guys are doing. They are being smart. They are not trying to repeat the same mistakes that their founding fathers did. That is what they are trying to do. They are being smart. And that is the way forward. Russia is not interested in colonizing anybody here. They were in Berlin Conference, but they refused to colonize any African country. You look at the history of, Russia. Why I'm happy the Africans are inviting Russians in militarily. The same Russians trained us during the era of colonization. They trained us. They trained over 50,000 African personnel. They trained us, gave us weapons, gave us automatic rifles to fight for our independence. After fighting for our independence, they never colonized anybody here. It's recently that they are coming back to the continent. It's recently that Russia is coming back to, after the end of the Cold War, Russia was out of Africa. They never colonized an African country. Neither are they part of the neo-colonial project. Let us contract them. We pay them. We need weapons. We need training. We pay them. They train us. They go their way. It's simple. They have no interest because Russia is also a commodity producing nation. Russia became a superpower not through the exploitation of third world countries. France is powerful not because of good leadership and hard work, but France is powerful because of what? Because of exploitation of West African countries, especially the Francophone countries. America is not powerful because of hard work. America is powerful today because of the United States dollar being the world reserve currency. We give United States money, then this same United States use the same money to build their military and come back and hunt us. Tell me one country that the Russians are exploiting. The Russians are powerful through hard work. That is the difference between Russia and the West and America. Russia is powerful today not because they are exploiting other countries. Can you tell me one country that Russia is exploiting in Africa here? One government that was toppled by Russia. What is Russia offering? They are training us just like they did in the era of, just like what they did in the era of colonization. They train us to fight for our independence. And that is exactly what they are doing today. They are not here to lecture us on human rights. America is trapping African countries with aid. You either accept LGBTQ or they topple your government or they threaten you with sanctions. So it's very, very important Africa decouple away from United States dollar and Francophone country, all this franc CFA. Because United States is trapping Africans with their dollar and France is also threatening us with their CFA. Just imagine Emmanuel Macron in Africa begging African leaders to work with France. Just imagine that. I was shocked to see Emmanuel Macron in Congo trying to convince the Congolese that they shouldn't decouple away from them. They should still work with them. Why? Because because they realize that all African countries, or most of the Francophone countries, are inviting the Russians in. And there is no way, I repeat, France cannot stand the Russian army even one day, because France is weak militarily. France rely on United States, and United States will not help France in West Africa here, because they also want to take control of West Africa. So let's take advantage, Africa, or most of the Francophone countries, or all the Francophone countries, take the advantage between, or the war between United States and France, and align yourself with the Russians and fight for your independence. Africa is still colonized technically. We are not independent. We still hold our reserves in the United States dollar. We buy United States dollar bonds. We buy Francophone bonds, or this, safer bonds. Just imagine the Francophone countries. After working hard, they have to put their money in France. They have no right to put their money in their own country. They have to put their money in France. And if they want the money, France will not give them the money. France will loan the money back to them. Then they will not pay back with the same safer. They will pay back with their resources. What kind of criminal activity is going on in Africa? This is what is happening. Cheat. Criminal activity in Africa. Pure exploitation in Africa. And I'm proud of you. Guys, if you're watching me, please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be creating much longer videos than this. And I'll start streaming live on YouTube here as well. The message have to go, whether they like it or not. We know, you see, they censor videos like this are not trending. They don't trend on, this American platform. Sometimes they don't, especially in YouTube, on YouTube here. It doesn't trend. So you have to like the video and force the videos to trend. I mean, we have to educate our people. We have to let them know what is happening in Africa here. Thank you.